Network Africa. At least at least 3 people killed in Somalia after bomb explosion in Mogadishu. The European Union rejects Turkish plans to send troops to Libya. Plus, Togo's President Faure Gnassingbé seeks another term in office. Hello and welcome to the midweek edition of the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. At least 3 people have been killed and 11 others injured by a car bomb which exploded at a busy junction in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. According to the head of Mogadishu's rescue service, a vehicle loaded with bombs went off at a checkpoint between the security ministry headquarters and the lower house building in the Sayidka area of Mogadishu. The Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for the blast. Iran has made good on its retaliation threat with a ballistic missile attack on air bases housing U.S. forces in Iraq. More than a dozen missiles launched from Iran struck 2 air bases in west of Baghdad in response to the U.S. killing of General Qasem Soleimani. The impact of this U.S.-Iran tensions is being felt across the globe, even here in Africa. South Africa's finance minister warns that the tensions are a threat affecting the global economy and South Africa's economy. A Nigerian security expert based in London also says there will be a knock-on effect in Africa. Well, we'll be having more on that story. But in the meantime, the European Union has condemned what it calls Turkey's interference in Libya after Ankara said it had sent troops to support the internationally recognized government in Tripoli. Speaking after an emergency meeting in Brussels with the foreign minister of Germany, France, the UK and Italy, the EU's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, said Turkey's action complicated the situation in Libya.
We agreed that the overriding urgency is to stop the fighting in and around Tripoli and ask for an immediate cessation of hostilities. Any escalation and also any outside interference will only make the conflict more protracted, bring more misery to ordinary people in Libya, exacerbate divisions in the country, and increase the risk of its partition, spread instability across the region, and aggravate the threat of terrorism. We have also called for a strict respect of the arms embargo declared by the United Nations. We asked for a ceasefire, and we ask also to stop escalation and to external interference, which has been increasing in the last days. It is obvious that this makes a reference to the Turkish decision to intervene with their troops in Libya, which is something that we reject, and we increases our worries about the situation in Libya.
The governing party in Togo has chosen incumbent President Faure Gnassingbé as its candidate for elections next month, making it likely that his family's decade-long rule will be extended. He was voted into power in a disputed election in 2005, taking over from his late father Gnassingbé Eyadema, who had been president for 38 years. In recent years, there has been growing anger over the family's complete domination of the political scene. 18 months of mass protest hurt the economy and led to negotiations with the opposition in 2018. A law was passed last year introducing a 2-term presidential limit, but the law did not take into account Mr. Gnassingbé's first 3 terms, allowing him to potentially stay in power until 2030. President Alassane Ouattara of Côte d'Ivoire plans to modify the country's constitution ahead of the presidential election in October. He said the proposed changes will make the constitution more coherent, although he did not give details on that. He also dismissed speculation that an age limit will be imposed for candidates, which would bar two of his main rivals, Laurent Gbagbo and Henri Konan Beye, from standing. It is, however, not clear if Mr. Ouattara will run for another term. Now, with the news that Côte d'Ivoire's President Alassane Ouattara intends to modify the country's constitution ahead of presidential elections later this year, there are fears that Francophone Africa's largest economy could be heading towards a political crisis. Many Ivorians are still reeling from a civil war that ensued after elections in 2010. More than 3,000 people were killed in a standoff between Mr. Ouattara and his predecessor, Laurent Gbagbo, who was refusing to accept defeat. A decade on, they had hoped that the country's divisions were finally healing. While 78-year-old Mr. Ouattara has said he wants to step down, he has also said he will be a candidate if his rivals, 74-year-old Laurent Gbagbo and 85-year-old Henri Konan Bedier, decides to run too. We have joining us now to discuss more on this situation, Mr. Chukwemeka Eze, an African affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me start by asking you, a new election is coming up. What should Côte d'Ivoire do differently to, avoid a repeat of what happened in 2010?
What they will do differently is for the incumbent to step down. Having served for 2 terms of 10 years, he should step down. If he proceeds to contest, definitely there will be crisis in Côte d'Ivoire. But I see him surviving the crisis because France may be interested in Alassane Ouattara remaining in power. So I think at the end of the day, Côte d'Ivoire will need to ensure that the incumbent steps down so that they will have a stable system of succession. I think that's the only thing they can do.
I also want to ask, why does it seem like African leaders are power drunk, so to speak, doing all things possible to extend their stay in office? And now you have Ivorian leader Alassane Ouattara, who wants to modify the constitution. On Monday, anti-government protests held across Guinea over concerns that President Alpha Condé, 81-year-old, plans to reform the constitution in order to stay in office for a third term. Why does it seem like African leaders don't want to leave?
African leaders don't want to leave because of this mentality of l'état c'est moi, I am the state. Two African leaders are very ambitious. They are too ambitious and they don't see themselves staying out of power. They quickly get power drunk. Number three, they are fearful because of the way they have misused the state funds, that if they leave, that their opponents might necessarily not allow them to continue to live fat on the assets of the state. So they like staying in power for a very long time because fear, ambition, and failure to even have successors, bring up successors, and because some foreign powers prefer siding with them for stability, because the devil you know is better than the angel you don't know. And because of that, many of these leaders, they want to stay in power forever and ever.
Well, I think another reason most leaders say they want to solidify changes they've made during their tenures. What do you think? Would long-term leadership be good for countries whose goal is establishing democratic governments?
Two-term leadership, two terms will be sufficient. And both Alpha Conde of Guinea will be spending 2 terms this year. Alassane Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire will be spending 2 terms this year. But basically, the argument doesn't suffice because they will never be there forever. We live one day. But they don't have the sense of allowing somebody else to be in power and for them to watch that person. They believe the person will rubbish them and they won't fight on the state again. All these reasons they are giving about stability, there will be more stability than if they stay. So Congo, you can see Congo is stabilized now. But if the previous person has stayed in power, there wouldn't have been stability as we see it with the coming of Etienne Tshisekedi. So stability is better when they go than when they stay.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwemeka Eze, African Affairs Analyst. Thank you for speaking to us on that. Moving on to other stories now, Nigeria's health sector has recorded a major breakthrough as a team of doctors at the National Hospital in Abuja successfully separated a set of twins that were conjoined in the chest and lower abdomen. The Minister of Health, Osagi Ehanire, says the breakthrough will help restore the confidence of Nigerians in the nation's health sector and reduce the number of Nigerians traveling abroad for medical treatment.
The chances that conjoined twins will survive surgical separation is very slim. Experts place survival rates between 5 to 25%. Hence, the relief for these parents and the medical team that have successfully separated conjoined twins at the National Hospital in Abuja. The successful separation of Goodness and Mercy, who were brought into the National Hospital 16 months ago, is one major breakthrough in Nigeria's medical history. This is a pre-surgery picture of Mercy and Goodness, conjoined in the chest and the lower abdomen, sharing some vital organs such as the liver and the diaphragm that separates the chest from the abdomen.
What are the advantage and benefits?
The Minister of Health says the successful separation of these twins will help to restore confidence in the health sector.
A part of the reason for medical tourism is, as you hear people say, they believe that they have no confidence in the health sector here. They believe we don't have the specialists, we don't have the equipment. This case has shown that a lot of equipment is present here, and that we also have the expertise.
Available statistics reveal that conjoined twins occur in every 50 to 60,000 births globally, and about half of this number die before their first birthday. This perhaps explains the feelings of the parents of these successfully separated conjoined twins and the medical team.
Today, I'm very, very happy to see my baby separated. My great thanks go to Honorable Minister for Health.
My biggest lesson from this is that the spirit of teamwork and the belief that we can do it. These two things helped us to achieve this in 16 months.
A lot of good work is going on. A lot of good things are happening. And I think if our people put their trust and faith in us, there's so much we can achieve.
Prior to this, parents requiring advanced medical surgery are usually referred to hospitals abroad. However, this breakthrough reveals that the Nigerian health sector can reverse medical tourism if the will and leadership is provided.
Still to come on the program. Approval ratings of President George Weah seem to decline as protests continue against his government. That's in a moment. Please stay with us.